And now let's cross over to our Ocean for global insight and an in-depth look at important developments in world affairs.
Thank you, Morgan. It's time for Global Insight, where we speak to experts from around the world on issues making headlines. The United Arab Emirates last week said that it plans to purchase South Korea's medium-range surface-to-air missile system called MSAM, or Cheonggung in Korean. The arms sale would not only be a first for the model, but also the largest ever export deal South Korea has ever made at $3.5 billion. With a series of recent developments in commercialization and exports of South Korea's military technologies, we discussed the country's future in the global defense industry. And for this, we have joining us today Professor Youngjun Kim at Korea National Defense University, who also serves as a member of the National Security Advisory Board at the South Korean President's Office. We also have joining us Youngjun, a defense analyst and journalist based in New Delhi. Very warm welcome to you both. And, well, it's a lot of exciting news for South Korea's defense industry. And, well, Professor Kim, now, South Korea's MSAM system, it's expected to be exported to the UAE in this $3.5 billion deal. How significant is this deal, and what are the advantages of the system, particularly for a Middle Eastern country?
Yes, this is a historical moment in Korean history, especially in terms of the export of the defense industry. This is the largest bill ever, $3.5 billion procurement of the middle-range surface-to-air missile system. This is significant because Middle East country has a lot of similar territory and geographically characteristics. So the other country also see what UAE they're having the multi-layered anti-missile system and to intercept incoming post-ballistic missile. So this is a very significant moment to as a symbolization of the largest bill ever and to potential market in Middle East country.
And to bring you into the conversation, Mr. Jain, it's very early there in New Delhi, isn't it? Well, thank you for joining us. And, well, how do you see the significance of this deal, and what makes the MSAM attractive for the UAE?
First of all, I would like to greet Professor Kim and Suyang. So if I talk about significance, I think for any system, getting the first export customer is the key to open into international trade. When we order something online, we analyze the user experience. The more users, it means more credibility of success, the economical stability due to more production of the system. It gives a global standing in the weapons exporting countries. And domestic needs alone cannot economically sustain the South Korean defense industry. So it is imperative to get the exports for South Korea. And UAE is always in the hotbed of the Middle East. So it's always involved in one conflict or the other. Like it was in Yemen, it was in Libya, Syria, like everywhere. So it is imperative for it to get a South Korean system.
And well, Professor Kim, the MSAM isn't the only Korean arms sale that's getting everyone excited. There's also a lot of anticipation surrounding the K-21 fighter jet, known as 보라매, which means young hawk in Korean. Now, what is the country's plan to develop its arms industry?
Yeah, this is also very significant symbolization of the we call 자주국방, the defense capability. We have an unforgettable event with the President Moon Jae-in on opening ceremony of the KF-21 fighter jet. This is a very successful case, including the combine the investment between the South Korean and foreign government. We call the Indonesian government. 60% from the South Korean government, 20% from the Indonesian government, and 20% from the private industry. We call KAI. And this is we expect the 40 aircraft delivered by 2028 and deploy by the 120 jet by 2032. So this is manufactured by the 2026. So this is the largest successful case for the Korean defense industry to export the Korean aircraft jet.
Oh, Mr. Jain, how big would you say South Korea's share is in the global arms market right now, and how are its products generally perceived?
Well, South Korea has become a name synonymous to rugged, tough, technologically advanced, and superior military equipment in the world market. The SIPRI report of trends in the international military expenditure has for the first time placed South Korea in the top 10 weapons exporting countries. And that is a big thing for South Korea. Actually, it has bagged more than 2% of the world's total arms trade from 2015 to 2020, and actually has seen more than double the increment in its arms exports. Actually, that's 143%, and that's humongous compared to other countries in the top 10 list. And with the development of KF-21 and and the K2 Black Panther, the country has shown that it has the capability to produce world-class weapon systems. Even in the field of small arms, the K series firearms have become quite a name worldwide, and especially in the maritime domain. Like everyone knows that South Korea builds the best ships in Asia. So, in fact, its expertise in shipbuilding has made it self-reliant in an early stage compared to other weapon systems.
And indeed, South Korea is starting to produce more and more self-developed, homegrown military technologies, Professor Kim. And while South Korea and the US, they agreed this year to end the missile range restrictions that were in place since the late 20th century. Now, what does this mean for South Korea, and what kind of technologies are going to be possible? I mean, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, this is the most exciting news ever to Korean people, especially from the last presidential summit between the Biden and Moon Jae-in to officially announce about the end of missile guideline. We have the so far in the past have a 800-kilometer missile range limitation. But now it's technically we can develop the SLBM, ICBM, or even cruise missile without any range limitation. This means in the space period, now South Korea developed their own civilian or military satellite, also Hyunmoo-4, or kind of the system, the space launching. This is very good news in booming up South Korean defense industry, also civilian industry, including the space period.
Professor Kim, it seems that, well, among some other arms exports that are quite popular, South Korea ones, I mean, it seems that the K9 Thunder and the K2 assault rifle, they've been rather popular models overseas. Which items or areas of specialty do you think South Korea should really leverage in order to expand its market share in the global arms market?
Yes, as everybody knows, the arms sales market is largely between the U.S. system or Russian dominant system and the legacy of the Cold War. So South Korea has a evolution between the two, because some country doesn't want the U.S.-based system, some country doesn't want the Russian-based system. And so far, South Korean government and industry to sell K9 Thunder and K2 is to Turkey, Poland, and Finland, and India, Norway, and Estonia. And next bill will be Egypt and Australia and United Kingdom. This is the change of geographical situation is tension rise between Russia and European country, and also South Korea has a evolution as a neutral country between the U.S. dominance and Russian dominance market. So this will be a large potential market, also influenced by the geographical change situation.
Mr. Jain, well, as of 2019, much of South Korea's defence exports went to Indonesia, Iraq and the Philippines. Where do you see South Korea expanding its markets, and what potential do you see now that the missile range limitations have been lifted by the United States?
Yeah, so we need to understand that weapons trade is always dependent on regional geopolitics, as Professor Kim rightly said. It's no secret that the East Pacific has become a hot zone, especially in the last decade, when the People's Republic of China has become increasingly assertive over its claim on the 9-dash line, and Taiwan, and not forgetting the DPRK. This has made the American allies a bit insecure in the region, increasing the arms race, a kind of a new Cold War, and we really need a new detente here. I would term this as an opportunity for South Korea expanding its market, and that's where Philippines and Indonesia step in. One more player we often forget is India, and the major K9 Thunder SPG deal, as Professor Kim just said. We also saw some images were also famous when we saw the South Korean K9 systems in Ladakh, which is the place where Indian Army and the PLA were engaged in a stiff standoff since about 1.5 years, and it's still ongoing, and it's quite a topic in India. So similarly, when we look in the Eastern Europe, situation is volatile there too. Annexation of Crimea, military buildup, war games, tensions with Belarus. They have intimidated smaller East European countries, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. So they are kind of intimidated, and they are also NATO allies. Turkey is a prime example of partnership with South Korea, and Poland is also keen to acquire the K2 Black Panther main battle tanks.
Mr. Jain, well, yes, with this growing need for maybe a neutral partner in this amid this growing, very intensive geopolitical environment that we're living in today, what advantage would you say that Korean arms would really offer these countries? Is it the technology, the price? I mean, we're not exactly up there with the US and UK companies, but what advantage do you think South Korea could have?
Well, as I said, that South Koreans are synonymous with toughness and the really technologically superior military equipment. In terms of pricing, I won't say that South Korea is the best because it is a developing arms industry, and the K2 Black Panther is perhaps one of the most costliest main battle tanks out there. But it would get into limits when the economics of production get into play. So main thing which I consider is the technological advancement in the South Korean arms industry. Like even the K-30 BHO SHORAD, which SHORAD, that is a short-range air defense system, it wasn't in limelight much, but then it actually won against the Russian Pantsir S1 SHORAD system, and that was a great deal when it actually won against the Russian system. And Russians used to proud on the Pantsir system, like yes, we have deployed it in Libya, we have deployed it in Middle East, but actually in the Indian evaluation competition, the K-30 BHO came out to be the superior one.
So yeah, Mr. Jain, well, with also China's plans to radically modernize its military by 2027, are you sensing this kind of tension arising, particularly in your region?
Yes, of course. China is the elephant of the room whenever we talk about geopolitics. So it already has the largest rocket force. It already has the largest navy in terms of naval warships. So it is rising, and it is a potentially concerning situation. Not potentially, but actually it is concerning the top brass in around the world. So even France and United Kingdom have recently increased their activities in the region by sending their own carrier battle groups. And the Taiwan question then comes in because United States has affirmed its what do I say? Has confirmed its presence that we will defend Taiwan in case of any Chinese invasion. So that's where it gets complicated, because the Taiwan question is the main factor. We saw it last year.
And well, finally, before we go, Professor Kim, now what kind of diplomatic opportunities will South Korea's arms exports open for the country, particularly during this time of geopolitical tension and rivalry that Mr. Jain was just mentioning?
Yeah, some people criticize South Korea's ambiguous position between the U.S. and China, or sometimes U.S. and Russia. But Korea has a unique position, exceptional position, because we have Korean have a good relation with Russia and China, also good relation with the U.S. as alliance. So if some country choose South Korea as a blue ocean in avoiding U.S. and Russian dominated arms sale market, not great power country push them in choosing South Korea. So this is a very unique position, and also potential partner will be a similar country between the U.S. and China, between the U.S. and Russia. They want to some similar middle power countries. So South Korea with the high technology, just like India, as a neutral country in having good relation between the China, Russia, and U.S. at the same time. So this will be a good opportunity therefore as a diplomacy or the South Korea arms export. So this is a good sign to sell the South Korean defense industry also as a diplomacy in increasing South Korean position as a unique and exceptional player in the world community.
Right, so some big opportunities there for this middle power positioning, especially in the arms industry. And well, I'm afraid this is all we have time for today. That was Professor Youngjun Kim at Korea National Defense University and Ayush Jain, a defense analyst and journalist based in New Delhi. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sui. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.